And I'm ready to talk about anything.
Awesome. All right. Well, hello, everybody. We are live today, it looks like. I'm always like, did this work? Did it not work? So you never know when technical difficulties are going to pop up. But I am so excited today to have my beautiful guest. And I love this because we're going to get into all of the woo. I know that we will.
That has to happen.
Yeah, it always has to happen, right? And so I'm super excited to share with you guys today. It's kind of one of those things, we set this up and then some things happen and it's been pushed out a little bit. And I'm like, we're just going to open up to the universe and allow whatever needs to come through today. So hello, Elysia, and thank you for being here today. And I did say that correct, right?
Yes. Chef. Yes, close enough.
Okay, so tell us all about you and your business before we get into the conversation, because otherwise I'll forget, because I always get so excited to talk to my guests. But all of the information for everybody that's watching is in the description, so you can find all of her good stuff. She has an amazing group. There's so many things that you can find out about her, and I love the Sacred Soul Alignment. So tell us about you, and then we'll get into some really good conversation.
Perfect. We talked a few months ago, and I feel like I'm a completely different person now than I was back at the end of February when we first connected. I don't know if any of you guys out there feel like that too. We've been through some big changes energetically on this planet collectively. So my name is Elysia Hartzell, and I'm the creator and founder of Sacred Soul Alignment, which is a healing modality that I was given / created in 2016. And since that time, what it is basically a collection of energy packets that I call alignments. Other people might call them something like activations. There's a lot of different names for energy frequencies out there, but they're collective packets of energy that have a specific intention. And I started with around 50 of them when I first started teaching, and now there's over 400. And I've certified over 500 practitioners with this. I'm wrapping up my my latest class, and I'll be close to, I think, 600 practitioners from all over the world in the last 4.5 years. So it's been a wild ride, and I wouldn't be wanting to do anything else with my time. I'm so blessed.
I am so in love with everything that you're saying. So yes, I agree 100% on the shifts that have happened this year. It's like 2020 was a catalyst, and everything's like locking into place now in 2021. It's how it feels for me. And there is even since the beginning of the month, right? We're only midway through July, and it's like, even since the beginning of the month, it's amazing the things that are changing. I love that you call these your sacred soul alignments. You're right. There's so many different things we can call them. We can call them activations or codes or frequencies, or all of the above are correct, right? Like they're all right. Yeah. It's just how your personal soul frequency and vibration aligns with whichever word. And it's funny how terminology has been something that's been interesting to me lately. And I've always done that. I've always been a person where it's like, okay, but what does the word actually mean?
Yes. And I could go into a whole thing about what alignments mean to me, but I've often wished that I could make up my own language, because I feel like some of these words, they get overused and they lose their meaning, or they mean so many different things to so many different people. And I've actually made words up sometimes because I don't actually have a word to describe what I'm talking about.
No, I love that so much. So I actually know a couple of ladies that have been in your training, and one of them, I was so excited to see her really finally stepping into this. So I'm so excited for what you're doing. But I think the key thing that I love is that you said it came to you, and you just, I mean, it's like a download. And I get that, because even the business that I'm doing now, I would have never been in my conscious mind saying, this is what I'm going to do when I make this business. I was like, okay, Spirit, what? Like, God, you did this to me. Show me what I'm supposed to do with this. What am I supposed to do with this energy? And I feel like so many people are being called to that now. So do you mind sharing with us some of how you went into this and how it came to you?
Yeah. So so many people who find themselves on this sort of a path, I got here because of a lot of turmoil and chaos and trauma that happened in my life. And I got married really, really young. I was 19 when I got married. I was married for 20 years, and it was not always the best, happiest marriage, but we had 3 children together. And my husband was diagnosed at the age of 38 with pancreatic cancer, which is almost always 99% of the time people are gone within 6 months. But he lived for 2 years, and it was a very a lot of things happened during that time, which would be several hours to talk about, so I won't go into that. But it was a perfect storm of awakening for me. And when he passed away, I realized that I needed to find out who I was. First of all, I had lost or forgotten who I was, and I needed to find out what I believed and what I was doing on this planet, other than being a mom, which of course has always been my foremost, most important job that I do. But my kids are older now, and so I moved. I sold my house, moved to a different state, and dove in to searching, seeking, learning everything that I could get my hands on. And I was very fortunate because I didn't have to work. I had enough income that I could, be home with my kids and dive into all of this stuff. So I had probably several years worth of seeking that I was able to do within a couple of years. And I realized that I wanted to make the world a better place in this particular way. There's many, many ways to make the world a better place, but I was feeling called to make the world a better place through doing healing work with other people. So I just started taking a lot of classes and got trained. And, when I do something, I don't do it halfway. I dive 1,000% in. And so I just started taking classes and getting certified to teach other modalities and, doing healing work hours and hours and hours a day on myself and my kids. And, that just really was an accelerated pathway. And one day I was hiking I live near Seattle, and I was hiking in Mount Rainier. And I felt all of a sudden like now this might sound a little out there to some people, but I felt like the trees were communicating with me. And I was guided to go and sit by a particular tree in this forest called Ahana-Kapash, where there's these huge old growth trees. And so I just went, and my youngest daughter was with me, like, what are you doing, mommy? And I put my back against the tree, and I heard wisdom of the trees. And I recognized that there was energy coming in for me because I'd been using different forms of activations and things. And so I sat with that, and I actually recorded myself on my phone. And I realized that I had received an activation type energy. And that was the first sacred soul alignment. I didn't know it then. I didn't call them alignments at that time. That took maybe another 4 months or so before I really recognized that, hey, this is my own, modality. This is my own thing to pass on in the world. And shortly after that, I was guided to move to Maui. And I had never been to Hawaii. I hadn't even really ever wanted to go to Hawaii. But it was this undeniable urge to move there. And through a series of events that became possible for me to do that pretty easily. So I rented a house with my youngest daughter. She was 11 at the time. My 2 older daughters were in college. And off Craigslist, we packed up 2 suitcases and sight unseen landed in Maui. And from that moment on, an incredible amount of energy began to come in for me. And I lived there for a year. And that's where I created Sacred Soul Alignment. And the rest is kind of history and future, as we can say.
I love that story. It's so similar to some of the experiences that I've had too, as far as like just you just sometimes have to, well, not sometimes, it's like literally anymore, especially when you follow that, you're in divine alignment.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's always like the least thing that would be on your list or something that you would least expect. And it just all falls into line. I love the trees. I had to giggle when you said that because my husband teases me and he goes, you give a whole new meaning to tree hugger, honey.
I love it. They have so much to share. They're so old. They've been here for so long.
Yeah, especially there in the Seattle area. Oh my goodness. I love the trees up there. There's so much power and wisdom in nature anyway. And what's interesting is the galactic energies that are also stored within the nature, the trees, everything there. So I'm not surprised at all that you were called to Maui. That's a magical place.
Yes, it
So I
is.
love it so much. When how much resistance? I'm just curious to see, because like it seems like some people have something like you where it's just like bam, and all of a sudden they're awake and they're like, what do I do with this? Right. And then there's other people who are kind of like little tiny incremental steps to where they finally get into the full divine flow. I think one of the things that I am being asked to talk about today is like the resistance to it, because sometimes when we have these big callings, like it's natural to feel some resistance to it and be like, what am I doing? But I feel like there's a whole new level of people that are being called to step into spiritual business. Even if they've had a business forever, right? Like they've had this business forever, and now all of a sudden they're like, wait, I'm supposed to bring the spiritual aspect into it, and I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, that's where I feel like I'm being led to talk a lot lately, is like, how do you, I know for me, the biggest resistance is I'm kind of a Capricorn and I'm a thinker and I like to do things step by step. Which is so bizarre because there's so much galactic energy that I have too, that it almost seems like an oxymoron, but also I've been told from the very beginning, we have to blend that together. So
yeah. I have a lot of, I'm an Aquarius. I really identify with the galactic frequencies, the higher frequencies, and I've had to work to be here.
I have a lot of Aquarius on my chart, so I get that.
So
You're like, get me out of here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you're making a really important point here about people being called to step up. So I see this in my modality certification with people coming into the certification who 6 months ago maybe didn't even know what a chakra was,
Right.
And then all of a sudden they're just like blown wide open, and they are incredibly powerful healers, and they don't even know it yet. They're just stepping into it. And I feel like some of us and even people, many people have lived most of their adult life awake. I was 40 before I really had that awakening. But even so, I had a luxury of years of time to, even though I was on an accelerated path, I feel like I had years to sort of assimilate all of this and figure it out and learn it. And, chakras and this and cell bodies and, Galactic Federation, what's that,
Right.
and explore that stuff. But I feel like the people that are waking up now and that are really stepping into this, it's a little bit of a jolt. They're being called to step into something that they might not understand yet at all. But the really exciting thing that I'm seeing is that these people are being given so much support energetically. So if that's you, if you're like, I don't know what all this stuff is, or I'm just learning about this stuff, how can I be of service when there's so many people who've been in this for decades? Listen to yourself, because you will be given the exact support that you need. And the people that are being called to step in now are incredibly powerful souls. And it's just so exciting for me to witness that.
It's amazing, isn't it? Like, I think back to when I really started stepping out in the spiritual part of it, right? Because I had the background too as a coach, and I was more into like the physical health and herbs and nutrition and all of that kind of stuff. But when the spiritual piece, it was so undeniable. Like I couldn't not do it. I had to step into it, and that's just all there was to it. And I feel like it's going to take women like you and I that have been like, okay, we did this. And I know you're like, everything we went through maybe took 4 years. And they're like, in 4 months, you just went through everything we just did.
Exactly. I'm like, why did it take me so long to get here?
Right. Well, and I think it was divine timing. That's the other thing too, is I always think it's so important to remember that we have divine timing and everything does happen for a reason. And that it's okay to take your time. And do you think self-care was one of the hardest things for you to learn when you were going through? Because, you said we just have changed even in the last couple of months. And it's like the amount of self-care that you have to practice to be able to step into this work fully. And it's against what we're taught, especially in America, like work, do. We have to step back and be like, okay, wait, how do I receive and how do I be the spiritual being?
It's so important. And it's so what we're taught, not counterintuitive, but counter our programming, our social programming. I remember when I was, my kids were little and I was in my mid to late 30s, and I would watch Oprah. Sometimes that would be my like thing that I would do for my own self. And there was a time where she was interviewing somebody, I don't remember who, but they were talking about, put your own mask on. And that's so common. We know about, put your own mask on, the whole airplane analogy. And I was like, I got really angry at that because I was so self-sacrificing. It's all I knew. I was sacrificing myself to my husband, to my kids, to my church, to my community. And I didn't even know. If somebody had asked me what I would want at that time, I wouldn't have even been able to tell them. I would have said something for my family, or my children. And so I was like mad at whoever that person was that Oprah was interviewing. I was like, we can't, that's selfish. And that took a lot of unwinding. And I'm still unwinding that. And back in March, so the reason why our interview was delayed is that I had a near-death experience. Not the typical near-death experience where you're like almost, you see yourself floating away. But I had a surgery that was very routine. I had it on a Thursday. I was going to be back to work on a Monday. And I had a complication where there was internal hemorrhaging and I almost died. And so I was completely incapacitated after that for weeks. My face swelled up and my neck, and I couldn't see, I couldn't hear because there was so much swelling. I couldn't do anything but lay on the couch for weeks, and I couldn't work. I had to completely stop working. I had all these classes planned and all these commitments, and it was one of the biggest gifts that I've ever been given because it just, I feel like I said at the beginning, I feel like I'm a completely different person. I feel like I went into I went through that metamorphosis that a butterfly goes through. Like I could feel into my energy and it would feel like this liquid energy, and I was like, that was a little bit scary, but I knew that I was being reformed, or I was reforming myself into the next iteration of myself. And I had to completely surrender into doing nothing but self-care. And self-care is, we often in our society think of it as going to have a pedicure or, something like that. And those things are amazing and fun. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But that's not really true self-care. True self-care is getting really real with yourself and allowing your divinity to begin to shine through your human embodiment.
Yeah. I think that's part of the process of the awakening, right? Part of awakening is knowing that you're going to have these ebbs and flows, and you're going to have these moments that seem like constriction, but it's only giving you space so that you can recalibrate and then go into a fuller expansion.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I even teach in the business course is like you've got contraction and inspection and contraction and expansion. I'm trying to talk too fast because I'm so excited even within your business, and you've got to allow that in your life. And the whole self-care thing, I think as women, especially, I think we always deal with that. We always deal with the idea that we should give. And I think it's a paradigm. I think it's partly generational too. And there's so many ways that we can go into this. And I agree with you. I love getting my nails done and getting a pedicure and things like that. But sometimes that's not really self-care. It's more of a maintenance type thing, right? So self-care is actually in your heart and then honoring wherever you're at and however you're feeling and knowing that it's okay to take a sick day, so to speak.
Yes.
Or a few, in your case where you had kind of a severe reaction with that. So thank you for sharing that with us because I think it's so important. I had a similar experience last year where I had to have a heart procedure done. And it didn't, I'm like, I had to just take some time. I mean, there was just nothing else you can do but take time and get through and let yourself do the healing process and just be for a few days. But I feel like it's always interesting on the other side. If you're open to what is this showing me? Right? In every circumstance. And you may not, in the middle of that, the muck and the mire, you may just need to go to bed and you won't realize. But then on the other side of it, you're like, wow, look what really was going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always a choice. Like, I love how you said if you're open to it, because it's a choice in every now moment what we're open to and what we are willing to step into. You know, we could allow something to make us bitter and angry and hardened, or we can allow it to open us up and be sort of a rocket ship to growth. And it's our choice.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing. Everything is a choice. I love that so much. Gosh, there's so many things I want to ask you, and I usually try to keep these to like half an hour. So we've got about 10 more minutes. If you were to pick one of your sacred soul alignments, is there one that you like the best?
Oh, that's so hard. I do have some favorites. So one of many people's favorite alignment is an alignment called the rose alignment. And it's basically the frequency of rose essential oil, which is 320 hertz, which is said to be the highest frequency of any known essential oil, although some people say Idaho blue spruce is higher than that. But it carries the energy of compassion. It really has a frequency of like the Divine Mother, even in Mary Magdalene kind of energy comes in there. And I've had a lot of people actually say that they smell roses when they're receiving that. And then I have a whole So I've been working on, for the past year, what I call an energetic apothecary. And so it's crystals, it's essential oils, it's herbs, flower essences. And that series is quickly becoming my favorite because it has so much to offer us. So there's several crystal alignments that are really that I have that are really dear to my heart. There's a particular type of crystal called Andara crystals, and they're not very well known. They're a little bit controversial because some people say they're not actually crystals, but I have a whole series of Andara alignments that are, I have one called the Andara Earth Green, and it carries a frequency of sort of new earth frequency, like, a lot of spiritual people talk about fifth dimension and, raising up into those frequencies, and it carries those frequencies. So when you're receiving it, your vibration is really getting aligned. So the reason I call these alignments is that it's aligning your own individual energy with the frequency of that particular alignment. Some of them are clearing, some of them are bringing in, some of them are doing both. So those two are more about bringing in high frequencies.
I love that. It's really interesting that you just said that, because I think what I heard whenever you were saying that is, that was where I started. I started with the herbs and, all of the different aromatherapies and essential oil therapy and homeopathy and all of those kind of things, flower essences. I love working with flower essences and the energetic frequencies of that. And I think that might be something that we is good to touch on right now, is that when you have that galactic part of you, I've never had this until just now. I'm like, that's why I was so drawn to that. I needed help to anchor in the wild, crazy, high frequency galactic stuff in this earth place. And all of those things, the herbs, the oils, the flower essences, all of that, the crystals, I have crystals on, helped me kind of integrate and bring the energy in so that it can be in this earth plane, because I think that's some of the disconnect a lot of times for people. So I love that you're doing that, because I love all of those. That's my world right there. I'm like, oh, I love all that stuff. That's where I like to play.
It's amazing.
Oils.
Me too. And I am the same way. Like, I think I'm drawn to that stuff because I need to be grounded on this.
It helps you integrate.
And just diving into the flower essences, I was blown away by what nature has to offer us when I really dove into researching, a lot of the properties of some of these things. And it makes me want to have this big, I've got the energetic frequencies of that, but it makes me want to have this, I can see myself as this mad scientist with all these jars. I want to make flower essences now, the physical thing.
Yeah, no, that's so fun. I love it. So, gosh, again, I could just keep talking forever. I'm going to put you on the spot, and this is like one of the hardest questions usually that gets thrown. I always am like, oh my gosh, there's so many things. But if you could leave people with like one big takeaway from the interview today, what is like your big message?
Well, I think the ultimate thing I would say to people is to really, every day before you even start your day, really tune into your own source connection, because that's where everything comes in. So whatever that means for you, your own source connection, and often we can feel it in our heart. So you might feel your heart expand when you're really connecting into that, and just live your life as you go about your day in every now moment through the lens of your own source connection. And that also allows us, when we do that, when we step into that, that allows us to embody our own divinity in this human experience. And when we do that, life is magical in every moment. And we all have that ability. We all have a source connection. We all have the ability to shine our own, divine energy out through our human body. And we all are creators. And if everybody lived that way, the world would be a completely different place.
That's so amazing. I love that. So we resonate on so many different levels. Like, it's so funny because as you're saying that, I'm like, oh my God, yes, I can feel my heart just going, yes, that's so good. I love to hear like the similar messages in so many different ways. Yeah. So, I know that you have talked about your group is really awesome. I've been in your Facebook group. So tell us a little bit about, is that where you want to send people to find out more about you and the work that you do?
Yeah, that's a really good place, because I'm pretty active in there. I do a lot of free healing in there. In fact, I've got some pretty big plans for some regular things that I'm going to be doing in there. So it's on Facebook. A lot of people are leaving Facebook these days,
I
but
know.
Yeah, I'm still there, and I'm not planning on going anywhere. But it's Sacred Soul Alignment with Elysia Hartzell. And then you can also check out my website. I have a couple of websites, but the one that I really am focused on right now is sacredsoulalignment.com. And I have quite a few like blog articles on there, some videos you can watch with healing, and just learn more about all of the different things that I do in the world and that I have to offer. I have a lot of free content out there. And my YouTube also, I have a lot of free content on my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Elysia Hartzell.
Okay, very good. Thank you so, so much for being a guest with me today. As always, you guys, thanks for joining us. If you were watching this, I didn't see any questions come through, but I did see some hellos. So hello to everybody that's watching us live. If you see this on the replay, be sure to say hello and let us know that you're watching the replay. If you do have any questions, go ahead and drop those, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, and we will get back to you on those questions later. And that's it for now, you guys. Thanks so much for joining us. As always, you can join my group, Embody Grace Community, on Facebook as well. And sending you guys lots of love today. Thank you so much for being my guest. It's beautiful. I love everything that we talked about, the trees and the essential oils and the homeopathy and the alignment and the recalibration and all of it. So thank you so, so much for being my guest. And we will see everybody soon.